This model is in the less common scale of 1 to 35. But the model is of a Chinese machine, and this scale is more common for Chinese models. The model is an XCMG XG450D diaphragm walling rig, and it comes in a nice quality box which is quite big. This model is released by Yagao, but there's no information about it on the box. The two big expanded polystyrene trays are factory sealed, so when we cut the tape we can see the model inside. And immediately you can see that this is quite a large model. So it needs a pair of giant hand cranes to carefully get it out of the box. Once we've got it out, there's a few more things to take a look at. And that includes a couple of parts which were loose in the box. There's also a small XCMG brochure and a plastic pointer. There was a minor bit of shipping damage on the review model, and that's a grab rail that goes onto the cab. So it was a job for our old friend Super Glue. And at least because of the bigger scale, it's easier to fit parts like this. Also loose in the box was the front cab guard, but that we can just clip into place. And that's better because it means we can remove it if we want to. There's no assembly as such, but the model requires some work to get it to look right. And out of the box the hoses do not run through the hose guides properly. But fortunately that's an easy thing to put right. So to do that we just need to get a screwdriver and undo the screw that holds the big guide wheel in place. And then we can pull the guide wheel out. With that done, it now gives us the chance to put the hose where it should be. And to do that we just need to ease apart the frame that encloses the two hose runners. These particular parts are plastic, so you just need to gently ease them open. And as long as you're reasonably careful and not too violent, a gap can be created to get the hose where it should be. After that the guide wheel goes back in and we screw it back into place. You then just need to complete this quick operation on the other side. The next alteration is a bit more tricky, but you do need to do it if you want the model to look its best. And that's because there's this strange piece on the model which is not on the real machine. And it just doesn't look right at all when the boom is put at an angle. So much as we don't like altering models on cranes etc, this time some surgery is necessary. And the way we're going to do it here is to get as sharp knife as possible and cut the piece off because it's plastic. Once separated it can be broken up completely. Without that part we can also reeve the model more accurately and put one of the ropes through its runners. Firstly, here is a 1 to 50 scale man, and that shows you the model is roughly 30% bigger than a 1 to 50 scale model. Looking underneath there's not much detail on the undercarriage, but there is some detailing of the body. The track frames have rollers, but they're non-functional, they're just in the casting. But the metal tracks themselves are nice enough and they have bolt head details. Moving to the cab, there are plastic guards on the cab windows, and there's a decent door handle. The graphics and paintwork are nice enough, and there are some grills modelled within the casting. And if we look at the counterweight, there are some small graphics which add detail. There are also various textures up on top, although some are a little disguised by thick paint. On the other side of the body there is again some more details in the casting. The engine cover on top is plastic, as is the access ladder. Other parts which are plastic include the two big hose reels, but the hoses themselves have decent flexibility, so they look quite good. The plastic parts have an excellent colour match, including the big ram jackets. And moving up, the boom is mostly metal, with some of the smaller parts modelled in plastic. At the top there are some nice looking pulleys. The diaphragm wall cutter is impressive and heavy because it's nearly all metal. And the grab is also a nicely modelled piece because it has drainage holes in the buckets. The crawler tracks on the model roll very smoothly, and they are tensioned in the usual way by spring-loaded idlers. There's too much friction for them to roll on a smooth surface, but they grip and turn realistically on a rough surface. The boom is held by the two big hydraulic rams and the angle is adjustable. The rams are very stiff so they hold a pose, but they're also very sticky so they jerk rather than moving smoothly. Rotation of the model though is very smooth, and it turns nicely without any rocking or stickiness. The two big winches are operated by keys, and they are stored within the model, so to get to them you need to remove the side panel. And there are the two big keys clipped into the body, and they are easy to remove. The side panel has got two small magnets in it, and they work well to hold the panel in place. The two winches work well enough and there's easily enough friction to hold the cutter, but to raise or lower the cutter there are actually 5 things you need to move, and that's the two main winches, the two big hose reels, and there's also a small drum mounted on the boom. The grab works well with nice functionality, you can open it widely, and it closes with the teeth interlocking nicely. So overall the cutter is a nicely engineered piece. There is another feature on the model which is nice to have, and that's an opening cab door, and the door handle is big enough to get hold of. Inside the cab you can see that it's reasonably detailed. This is a bigger than average model, so let's get the tape out and see how big it is. And to the top it's around 19 inches or 48 centimeters. And if it's never mind the height, let's feel the width. Then you need about 14 inches or 35 centimeters. This is also an excuse to get the cranes etc. weighbridge working. And it's about 2.5 kilograms or 5.5 pounds. This is an interesting model of a piece of Chinese construction equipment. It's an unusually large scale, but that does mean it's a nice big model, and the detailing and working features are nice enough. As we've seen, it is best to modify it a little bit once we get it out of the box, so overall it's rated as a good model.